Welcome to the Learning Zone with Miss Beachley, Miss Hall, and Miss Bates.
Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. That was loud, but let's get going. Today we're going to be sequencing the important events of a text. We're going to be using that Reading Informational Text Standard 2.3, which says that we can describe a connection between a series of historical events, scientific ideas or concepts, or steps in a technical procedure within a text. We're going to be looking at historical events this week as we read about two different women in history. So our learning agenda today, it looks rather short, but there's a lot of content here, so I want to make sure you have time to practice in that content. You'll be doing that phonics practice first thing every morning. You're going to be watching this instructional video and answering those text-dependent questions. The anchor chart that I'm referring to today comes from your packet, is the sequencing anchor chart, and it looks like this. As we look at the skill of sequencing or putting things in order. And we're about to go into that second read. I had you start reading the text Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell yesterday. So we're going to go into that second read within our close reading strips, and I'm going to show you some tips and pointers on how to make that second read super useful in understanding the text. So sequencing is that putting events in order. It is the order that the events happen within a story. This is really important during that second read to start thinking about the sequence or what those most important events are in a story. Because during that first read, you're really looking at what was the main ideas of those texts, what was the story mostly about. But now we want to dive deeper into those events and how do those events help us understand this person or this event that happened. We're reading today a story from our Your Turn practice book called Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell. And you can see I've already started to mark up my text as well as draw in those things that I can use to organize the events of the text. You know, those kind of graphic organizer type things that we're making on our own right now. So that as I read, I can organize my thoughts and my ideas and have that available to me when I'm answering these text-dependent questions, or I'm diving deeper into the text using maybe a race response. So when we sequence, we are using that sequencing skill as a strategy to help us summarize the text. And when we're sequencing, we want to think about what happened first, what happened next, and what happened last. And oftentimes you'll see, as in this anchor chart, the order first, then next, finally, or first, then next, last. And that's the way that most of the time we're going to sequence a text. So a lot of times our sequencing graphic organizers can look like they have three to four boxes in them. You want to make sure you're focusing on the most important events, and sometimes those other events can become extraneous details and we don't actually need them in the story. So it's important that we're looking for sequencing or clue words, and I've included those sequencing or clue words in your anchor chart. Sequencing and clue words are words like first, before, meanwhile, at last, the next day. Those help us understand that there's been a change in the time that this is taking place, or this is signaling that there is a new event happening. Eventually, this happened. And so as we're reading, we want to make sure that we're really marking and looking for those words in the text. So I've started to mark up Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, and the nice thing about this text is they've split it into sections, which is another great useful tool for us to understand how the events happen in the story. So I had read that in her early life, she was born in England in 1821. And when she got older, she became a teacher. Now, I'm thinking about in the context of the story, and because this is my second read, I already know what happened, was that were those two specific events? Was her being born and her becoming a teacher two specific events, or is that just what happened first in the story of her life? So as the section header helped me understand that this was an important detail that happened in her early life, I can put that all in one event. So I would write that first, she was born in 1821 and became a teacher. I'm going to keep going in my graphic organizer and map out those important details. This is another great use I've showed you about. You can use Post-its if you have them available. And you can just take notes right as you're reading and pop it right into your graphic organizer, or move them around and order the events as you see fit, or as helps you. So then I'm reading, and I keep reading, and on the second paragraph, or third paragraph actually, on that third paragraph, I see this clue word, then. So that clue word, then, signals to me that there was an important event that happened that changed her story, and helps me understand that I need to pay more attention here and to what's happening. So it says, then one of Elizabeth's friends got very ill. I don't want to stop there. I don't just want to put that in then, because there might be more to that story. So I want to keep reading until I see where the next event starts. She wanted sick people to have less pain and discomfort, and Elizabeth started thinking about ways to help people like her friend. She wanted to become a doctor. You can turn the page, and I know that this is going to go to a new paragraph. So Elizabeth talked to men doctors who told her that women could not go to medical school. Elizabeth did not agree or accept that. She tried to get into a number of medical schools. She did not give up. So I'm thinking about those events, and I'm thinking if that's one or two events. I only had that one clue word, then. And so I think I'm going to conclude all of this as one event, and I want to kind of make a mini summary. Remember we talked about somebody wanted but so and then. So I'm kind of creating a mini summary. We know that Elizabeth wanted to help people, so she tried to apply to medical school, but there was a lot of things in her way. And I want to put that in a concise and clear statement, because remember, we want to touch on the most important events in the order that happened. As I keep reading, I'm looking for those clue words, and then I come across another one, and this is in the second paragraph on the second page on line 138, and it's that word at last. And you can see as I was reading, I boxed it, so I knew that there was a clue word there that was going to help me see that a new event was happening. My notes don't always look pretty, but they help me organize my thoughts as I keep reading. So a few years later, that's another clue word, so I've underlined, or I've boxed that clue word there. A few years later, Elizabeth opened her own medical office in New York City. She asked 2 other women doctors to join her practice. One of those doctors was her sister Emily. The doctors took care of sick women and children. They also ran a school to train or teach other women as doctors. Elizabeth helped people her whole life. She opened the door for women doctors. So as I'm thinking about that event that happens the biggest last event after that a few years later was that Elizabeth opened her own medical practice or doctor. Now as I'm completing those text-dependent questions, I have all of these notes that helped me organize the sequence or the important events that happened in this story. So our next steps for today's lesson are that you should sequence the story Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell and answer those text-dependent questions on page 225. As always, you're going to have extra wonders practice or ABC mouse practice that you can do. And don't forget to be doing that 15 minutes of iReady reading a day. I hope you have a great day of learning, Furman Scholars, and I will see you again tomorrow.